Hello, and welcome to Stories from India, a podcast where we talk about myths, legends, and folk tales from India. I'm your host, Narad Muni, and I'm a mythological character myself. I have the gift of eternal life and knowledge of the past, the present, and the future. By profession, I'm a traveling musician and a storyteller. So, the way I'm doing my job is by podcast. In this episode, we are going to do a story from the Panchatantra. We have done 3 episodes of the Panchatantra before. Though it wasn't the author's original intention, all of these stories do stand alone. More on that later. Today's story begins with a farmer, or rather, a newly minted farmer. Bhakt was an ordinary villager just a day ago. But overnight, he had found fame and fortune by winning the ancient Indian version of the lottery. In a big press conference, the Sarpanch, or the chief of the village, presented him with a giant novelty check and the key to the village, even though none of the houses and buildings in the village had any locks. It was symbolic anyway. Bhakt was incredibly thrilled. That is, until he found out how much income tax he would have to pay. He talked to some tax advisors, and they advised him to buy a farm. He could harvest tax losses while also harvesting vegetables. Poor joke aside, it did seem like a good idea to Bhakt. He did not have to search very much. Pretty soon, he found somebody who had a farm to sell. And it was a huge farm. Guaranteed crop, good well water. The owner said that he would even throw in the farm animals for free. "What's the catch?" asked Bhakt. "No catch," replied the seller. "My doctor doesn't want me to farm anymore." "Then couldn't you hire someone else to do the farming for you?" Bhakt asked. "Well, no, my doctor has forbidden me that too." Bhakt thought that excuse was a little bit weak, but he considered that an acceptable thing from a very motivated seller. But right after moving in with his family, Bhakt found out why the previous owner was not very forthcoming. All night, Bhakt's family heard slithering noises and hisses. And the next morning, as Bhakt walked around the house, he found the source. There was a huge anthill right outside his back door. But it was not full of ants. The ants had long moved out, or maybe they'd been eaten up. The current resident was a huge snake, a cobra, one of the deadliest snakes in India. The cobra slithered away when Bhakt approached. Cobras are generally shy creatures. Instead of feeling anxious at the sight of an extremely irritable creature known to take tens of thousands of lives every year, Bhakt instead felt neighborly. He rushed in and grabbed a saucer of milk, freshly milked from their new cows. He laid the saucer right next to the anthill and went about his own duties. In the evening, when he collected the saucer, expecting it to be empty, he was surprised that it was not completely empty. The milk was all gone, for sure, but in its place, right in the middle of the saucer, was a single gold coin. This was exactly what Bhact needed, especially as he had spent all of his remaining cash on the farm. He tried the same thing the next day, and to his surprise, he got another gold coin. A snake that tipped generously? That was just the neighbor the farmer needed, and it cost him practically nothing. He did not question where the snake had brought the coins from. Were they even legitimately acquired? And he did not even wonder how the snake had transported the coin. Given the absence of limbs, the most likely explanation was that the snake had regurgitated it. That made it possible that the coin would be covered with venom. But luckily for Bhact, that was not the case. Bhact began making considerable upgrades in his house with all the gold coins he was collecting. He brought in new furniture, set up a swimming pool, a home theater, bowling alley. His life was definitely going great. His family enjoyed all of these amenities without asking too many questions. One day, though, Bhact had to be out of town to sell his vegetables and to take one of his cows to the vet. He would be gone at least the whole day. But he could not allow the snake to be neglected meanwhile. So he called in his son and carefully instructed him. There was exactly one task that the boy had to do. Put a saucer of milk in front of the anthill in the morning and collect the gold coin at the end of the day. Not a very hard task, was it? But when his lazy son complained that it was extremely hard work, Bhact told him that he could keep the gold coin for himself. And that made the lad happy. Well, with Bhact gone, his son made a big mistake. He began thinking. He told himself that if a snake delivered a single gold coin every day from inside his anthill, why, that must mean there's a whole pile of gold coins in there. Why not just grab them all? He put his thoughts into action right away. He got a spade and ferociously attacked the anthill. That infuriated the snake. It slithered out of its home, carefully avoiding the spade, and as fast as lightning, struck the boy. Indian cobras are some of the deadliest snakes around. One bite was all it took. That's all for now. Some notes on the show. The story is from the Panchatantra. We have previously covered Panchatantra stories in episode 4, Hairy Tales, episode 29, Act Now, Think Later, and episode 48, Castles in the Air. Thanks to medieval tourism and trade, the Panchatantra tales are well known in other parts of the world. I've called the character Bhakt, which is the Hindi word for somebody who's devoted. The original version of this story had the farmer pray to the snake because of his religious views. I mean the farmer's religious views, not the snake's. There are many other versions of this tale. In the version from Aesop's Fables, it's the goose that laid the golden eggs every day. The Panchatantra was written by Vishnu Sharma as a challenge. A king was having a hard time managing his sons. They just did not have the inclination to read textbooks, turn in homework, and to sit through exams. Vishnu Sharma took on the challenge of teaching the boys wisdom. And to do this, he thought of a revolutionary new idea. At least, it seemed revolutionary 2 or 3,000 years ago. Vishnu Sharma used stories instead of boring lectures. He deserves full credit for taking creative writing to the next level. So the Panchatantra was a bit like the For Dummies or the Idiot's Guide book series. Wisdom for Princes, a storybook for the rest of us. The stories in the Panchatantra are actually chains of stories. At the conclusion of each incident, one of the characters narrates a new story. A little bit like in the 1001 Tales from the Arabian Nights, but without all of the cliffhangers. That's all for now. In the next episode, we'll do a folktale from the Indian state of Punjab. This is a story that may share some roots with the Robber Bridegroom from the fairy tales collection by the Brothers Grimm. It's about a girl who gets entangled in a terrible domestic situation. But then, she gets out of it with a machete. If you have comments or suggestions, or if there are particular stories you would like to hear, please do let me know by leaving a comment or a review on the site sfipodcast.com or tweet at sfipodcast. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get notified automatically of new episodes. Thanks to all of you listeners for your continued support and your feedback. The music is from purpleplanet.com. That's purple-planet.com. I'll see you next time.